Hello everyone, this is Frank DiMora with the End Times Research Ministry. Today is the end of April. Today's April the 30th of 2015. And I want to bring to your attention some of the warnings that I gave you previously concerning the nation of Israel and Iran. Now yesterday I posted that the framework that Iran got from President Obama took place on Nisan 13. That is April the 1st in our calendar. And we know that on that same day there was an earthquake on the Madrid Fault. Now the Madrid Fault is a huge fault. And there is a curse in the Bible in Genesis chapter 12. And the Lord shows us in other places as well that anybody who's going to curse Israel will be cursed, and those that will bless Israel will be blessed. And obviously, by allowing a framework that the United States under Obama has given Iran, which Iran is Israel's enemy, on that same day, on Nisan 13, we saw an earthquake, a 4.0, strike the Madrid Fault, like a pre-warning, if you will, from God to the United States and the Obama administration that he is not liking what the Obama administration is doing. Now, in my post yesterday, I showed you that Haman did primarily the same thing. He set up Israel to be destroyed at a later date. And if you'd go over to Esther chapter 3, verses 12 and 13, you'd see what I'm talking about. Now, essentially what happened here is President Obama did the same thing Naaman did. Now, Naaman did this for a specific reason, the destruction of the nation of Israel. By allowing Iran to continue on with their nuclear program, President Obama has set in motion, again, almost the same thing that we saw in Esther chapter 3. In other words, at a later date, Iran, when they finish getting all of the material that they need for a nuclear bomb, they will no doubt try to use this against the nation of Israel. They have said over and over again that they wanted to annihilate the nation of Israel, and there's more news about it today. And so I'm bringing it to your attention because Israel has been targeted by Iran. No question about it. And Iran is very influential in sending people and sending their agenda in many places around the world and trying to incorporate their power so that they can lash out finally and hit Jerusalem to take it back. That's their goal. Now, all of this we know in prophecy. We know this from Thessalonians, where Paul writes to us about the last days, and when you shall see the call for peace and safety, that is when the sudden destruction is going to be coming. And we know that the sudden destruction obviously is going to affect the nation of Israel, because God shows us in prophecy what he is going to do with the nation of Israel in the last days. And we're seeing it happen now. And so we see that the peace that has been going back and forth is no longer even being talked about in the Middle East. What do we hear? We hear about war. And of course, this is what Paul was warning about, the sudden destruction that was going to be coming. So now that Barack Obama has given Israel a bad deal, in other words, allowing the Iranians to go ahead and build these centrifuges and eventually get a hold of a nuclear bomb, they are no doubt are going to try to use this bomb against the nation of Israel. So Israel has to go out and do something before that happens, and that's what I've been warning you about. Warning you that please pay attention, because there's two wars that haven't been fought yet. One is the Ezekiel 38 war, of which Iran is going to play a major role against Israel, attacking Israel with Muslim allies. And then the other war that didn't take place yet and is creeping up as well is the Psalm 83 war. Those are the nations that border the nation of Israel right now, like the Palestinians and the Syrians and the Lebanese and we see ISIS moving into those areas. But I want to concentrate on the news today about Israel striking at Iran, because that's going to be a major deal in the news when it takes place. The Breitbart put out this news today: Israel will strike Iran first to thwart nuclear attack. This is what I've been warning about. They can't afford to allow anyone else to go to bat for them. And especially when they have seen for the past 5.5 years that no one is going to really physically go in and stop Iran, Israel is going to have to make some kind of move. And of course, when they do that, it's going to cause all hell to break out in the Middle East. It says Israel is not in a pleasant situation. Every day, her arch enemy, Iran, draws closer to refining enough uranium to build hundreds of nuclear weapons. Every day, the Iranian program becomes more difficult to dislodge. As the uranium is concentrated, the number of centrifuges required to complete the process decreases, allowing the remaining refining operation to be moved to smaller and more covert facilities. In other words, harder for Israel to hit. America, ostensibly Israel's ally, is rumored to have ordered U.S. warships to shoot down Israeli aircraft should the strike on Iran appear to be in process. According to the Israeli newspapers, President Obama thwarted a planned 2014 Israeli attack against the Iranian nuclear facilities by threatening to shoot down the Israeli bombers. Now, when you go to my site, I'm going to have a link there for you. You just go over there and put your cursor right there and click on that link, and you'll go over to that article that they're talking about here. And so Israel sees the United States not as an ally here, but as an agitator, somebody who's coming against them. And of course, when you do this, you're bringing on God's curse. America is currently sending additional warships to the Persian Gulf, ostensibly to blockade Iranian supply runs to rebels in Yemen. But if rumors of President Obama's threat against Israel are correct, perhaps also to reinforce U.S. firepower should Israel decide to mount an attack against Iran. There is no doubt an attack is on the drawing board, and I've been saying this for the past 5 years. The Israeli Defense Force admitted they are training for an attack on Iran in a recent interview with the Times of Israel. Iran may pose a grave existential threat to Israel. At least Israel believes they do, and they appear to have good reasons for their concerns. And according to an Israeli report written in 2008, Iran regularly state that Israel will shortly be wiped from the face of the earth. Regardless of whether the Iranian threats are as bad as claimed, or whether Iran actually means what they say, the Iranian nuclear program will provide Iran with the means to fulfill this terrifying threat. Iran is currently purchasing an advanced Russian air defense system, which will further complicate the job of attacking Iran should Israel choose to mount an attack. If Israel does decide to mount an attack on Iran, they will run the gauntlet. They will have to fly long distances over hostile Syria and other unfriendly countries. They will potentially face a massive counterattack from the growing American presence in the Persian Gulf. And when they finally reach Iran, they will suffer even more casualties from the advanced Russian anti-aircraft systems, which will shortly be operational. And when a handful of Israeli aircraft finally reach their targets, the surviving Israeli warplanes will have to somehow inflict significant damage on heavily armed nuclear facilities, some of which are buried hundreds of feet underground, to prevent them from being repaired. There is only one kind of bomb in Israel's arsenal which can fulfill this military requirement. A weak Iran deal, if it is ratified, will, in my opinion, be a lot more than a diplomatic failure for the reasons I have provided. I believe it may trigger a nuclear war. Now, what kind of bomb are they referring to? Well, obviously, it has to be some type of nuclear weapon. The destruction would have to be so massive and so deep to wipe out these underground facilities housing these nuclear armament that it would no doubt have to be a nuclear blast. And there's been writings about it, both in prophecy and outside of prophecy. For example, there was a news article that came out on October the 18th of 2012, an Iranian nuclear attack. How would it play out? What would a nuclear conflict in the Middle East look like? The results would be catastrophic for everyone involved and disastrous for the rest of the world. But realistically, how would it come about? Herman Cohen, the founder of the Hudson Institute, built his reputation on the unflinching look at the way a nuclear war between the U.S. and the Soviet Union would actually be fought. His speculations were so realistic, or sounded so realistic, that Soviet intelligence supposedly imagined that Cohen's ideas reflected actual U.S. military doctrine. His seminal work on thermonuclear war is still one of the best examinations of what a real conflict using nuclear weapons would be like. Since Anthony Korsman of the Center of International and Strategic Studies published his grim but outstanding 2007 study, there has been little unclassified speculation about what is near-term 2014 to 2020 Iranian nuclear attack on Israel might look like. Korsman estimated that Iran would have less than 50 nuclear weapons, 30 of which would be missile warheads, and 20 of which would be bombs dropped from aircraft. He guessed that Iran's weapons would be mostly in 20 to 30 kiloton range, with a few having as much as 100 kilotons of explosive power. By comparison, the U.S. bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945 is estimated to have had a yield of about 15 kilotons. Now, as you go down, it talks about how the outcome would look like. And here we see that in Israel, 200 to 800,000 people dead. An attack by Iran on Israel would likely take place in the context of a regional political and military crisis similar to what happened during the 2006 Second Lebanon War or the 2009 Cast-Lead operation in Gaza. Iran would find or invent a pretext and then launch its attack on the Jewish state. This attack would be accompanied by blood-curdling threats against the U.S. and its Arab allies and a complex propaganda campaign. Now, the article goes on, and we see that there's going to be special suits and obviously hazmat people for a nuclear war of this kind of magnitude that would be played out between Israel and Iran. And then subsequently this article refers to war that would spread out because Iran was hit or Israel was hit. Now, as I said, this isn't the first time we've seen the warning about nuclear war. We've been seeing it in the news, but the Lord our God has given us this news many, many years ago in the book of Ezekiel chapter 39, where we see likened war like a nuclear blast. Take a look. It says this in Ezekiel chapter 39. Now, the Son of Man, prophesy against God and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn you around and drag you along, and I will bring you from the far north and send you against the mountains of Israel. So an attack from the north, which Russia obviously is to the north, and so is Iran mentioned here in chapter 38. But let's go on. Then I will strike your bow from your left hand and make your arrows drop from your right hand. Now keep in mind that when Ezekiel was writing this, he was writing with the knowledge of weaponry back then. So arrows, missiles, and rockets. In verse 4 it says, on the mountains of Israel you will fall, you and all your troops and your nations with you. There's going to be many, many nations, Islamic nations, including Iran, that will be coming with Russia. And I will give you as food to all kinds of carrion birds and to the wild animals. You will fall in the open field, for I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. I will send fire on Magog and those who live in safety in the coastlands, and they will know that I am the Lord. Now, we know fire. Well, obviously, if you drop a nuclear weapon, it is going to unleash massive amounts of fire. In verse 7, I will make known my holy name among my people Israel. I will no longer let my holy name be profaned, and the nations will know that I, the Lord, am the Holy One in Israel. It is coming. It will surely take place, declares the sovereign Lord. This is the day I have spoken of. And this is one of the reasons why I talk so much about Ezekiel 38 and 39, because the Lord promised. And when he promises he's going to deliver something, he's going to deliver it. And this war has not happened yet. It is coming. Then he goes on. Then those who live in the towns of Israel will go out and use the weapons for fuel and burn them up, the small and the large shields, the bows and the arrows, the war clubs and the spears. And of course, this would be all the modern day armament that was coming down against Israel, and now Israel is going to be using this. Notice, as it goes on, for 7 years they will use them for fuel. They will not need to gather wood from the fields or cut it from the forest, because they will use the weapons for fuel. And they will plunder those who plunder them and loot those who looted them, declares the sovereign Lord. So as this massive army is coming down against Israel, and keep in mind we're going to be dealing with Iran because they are one of the major players in this war, God is going to intervene at this time and destroy, literally fight for the nation of Israel and destroy the enemies. On that day I will give Gog a burial place in Israel in the valley of those who travel east of the sea. It will block the way of the travelers, because Gog and all his hordes will be buried there. So it will be called the valley of Hemagog. Now this is very interesting, because it says for 7 months Israelites will be burying them in order to cleanse the land. So again, with a nuclear blast, if it's a limited nuclear blast or a nuclear blast, you're going to have special people that are going to cleanse the land. In modern times, we know this. We see them dress up. We know what their jobs are. In verse 13 it says, all the people of the land will bury them, and the day I will display my glory will be a memorable day for them, declares the sovereign Lord. People will be, now get this, people will be continually employed in cleansing the land. In other words, they're going to hire special people to cleanse the land. And they will spread out across the land, and along with others, they will bury any bodies that are lying on the ground. After 7 months, they will carry out a more detailed search. As they go through the land, anyone who sees a human bone will leave a marker beside it until the grave diggers buried it in the valley of Hemagog, near the town called Hemana, and so they will cleanse the land. So for 7 months, they're going to bury the people. They're going to put markers by the side of the body. Now, why do you think they do this? Well, the special people, obviously, that are in these hazmat suits are going to be coming to this area to grab these bodies, especially burying the bodies. And we only know this in our generation. And, of course, God had prophesied this many, many years ago. And the Lord goes on, and I would suggest that you read both Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, but the Lord is going to step in at that time, and we know right now Iran is threatening to destroy the nation of Israel. They are threatening how? Obviously, with the obtaining of a nuclear weapon that Ayatollah Khamenei and Rouhani now has stated that they want to wipe out the nation of Israel. Essentially saying the same thing we saw in Ezekiel 38 and 39. So when we go to an article like this, Israel will strike Iran first to thwart nuclear attack, it shouldn't come to a surprise to anyone, because we've seen the developments of this coming war that the Lord had prophesied, and it's getting closer and closer. And this is why, again, I give so much information about what's going on between Israel and Iran and the United States, because the United States right now is not in bed with Israel as a firm ally. Barack Obama says that he is, but all of his actions show the opposite. And as you saw from this article, that even the possibility that the United States would shoot down an allied plane, Israel's plane, if it tried to hit Iran. And so if that were ever to happen, man, oh man, I believe that probably within a matter of 24 hours or 48 hours, you'd see massive natural disasters taking place in the United States. It may even be one of those earthquakes, these magnificent earthquakes in huge magnitude, for example, in the New Madrid fault that I was talking about earlier. So if anybody is interested, please go to my book. You could read the chapter about the coming attack on Israel. I give you all kinds of information showing you the footsteps leading to Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39. And probably the most important message you're going to hear today is how to be saved. Why am I giving you all this information? It's because the Lord showed us in Romans 10:13, "For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved." Now, there are many people walking on this planet today who are calling Lord a certain God, Buddha, Muhammad, or whoever it may be. But we know for sure exactly who it is that they're talking about. We know this from John 14:6. When they were questioning Jesus, Jesus answered and said this, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Now, many may think that this is a narrow view, but we do know that the road to heaven is very narrow. And many people are going to be walking on this broad road, but few people will find that way. And the only way is through Jesus Christ. And his prophecies are a full-proof method that he has shown us that his word is true, and so is he. And if you reject his word, you reject Jesus Christ, and you reject the entrance into heaven. Not a very good thing to be doing. This is Frank DiMora saying, God bless you. Please receive Jesus today while we still have the time.